Yeah, so we are getting ready to start our first competitive season, kick off our first year of Wartburg esports. Students haven't quite moved in yet, but we're finalizing our finishing touches on our space for this year. And we're competing in Rocket League, League of Legends, and Valorant. And yeah, our main goals for this year are going to just be learning what it's like to compete in esports as a team. Because a lot of these players, they play not officially in high school, and if they do, it's just kind of a disorganized club at this point because esports is so up and coming. So a lot of learning what it means to communicate well, to work as a team, to not get angry and not let your emotions get the best of you. And that's going to be our main focus for this year, and I'm really excited with the players we got. It seems that they are very excited to be a part of the team. And yeah, I'm pumped as well to get this thing going. I can't wait for us to get started.
Where do you find them?
Where do you find our athletes?
Yeah, is it you just play it online and somebody good playing against? I mean, like, how do you go about recruiting it?
That's a great question. So high school esports is also up and coming. There's a lot, usually the leagues are organized by state, and the Midwest does a great job as a whole of actually having some state organized high school esports. So some high schools have some legit teams, so going to visit or doing some Zoom calls with them is a great way to find players. A lot of players will make online profiles similar to traditional athletes on some of the same websites, have spots for esports. Just visiting high schools in general. A lot of players also find us. But yeah, it is a great question, and I hope that esports as a whole continues to get more organized and how high schoolers who are interested in esports can find colleges, because it can be a little bit tricky at times, but there are avenues and they're growing.
I mean, is it to the point where like someone who plays on a high school team has a huge leg up on someone who just likes to game?
Yeah, I'd say so,
Okay.
because then their names are out there. Their high school coaches can easily plug them into tons of colleges in the area. Their
But I mean,
names
as far
are
as
just out there.
are they better?
Are they better?
Not necessarily a leg up as far as their skill coming to you and the ability for you to plug them in.
I'd say communication-wise, yeah, because they know what good communication looks like, with teamwork-wise as well. Skill level-wise, you never know. It could be either way. I'd say that they probably have a leg up just because they have more regular play time, and just hours are going to make you better. But you can find a lot of good players who are just kind of undiscovered out there, who just didn't realize that collegiate esports is an option in 2022.
As you get in on the ground floor of this here at Wartburg, obviously you guys are competitive and you want to win and you want to be successful and everything like that, but you also want to grow the esports industry here at the collegiate level. Where's that fine line? Where's that balance moving forward? Because obviously you want to be successful, but it would be great to have even more colleges get on board that you can compete against.
Yeah, I've been blown away by how other colleges and their esports directors and coaches are willing to help out, and the entire community is really connected and really willing to help each other. And we try not to keep too many secrets. I mean, of course, everybody's kind of got their secret sauce and they want their program to be the best and everything, but at the end of the day, we care the most about esports as a whole, and we want that to grow. So yeah, we want to be the best, but it's amazing how much we help each other out, because good competition that you're playing against will also make yourself better as a coach and will make your players better. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think.
How can you get older audiences to understand what you're doing and appreciate what you're doing? Because they didn't have any of these games. They had football, they had volleyball, but I mean, how do you start to grow it and get an audience that can appreciate it even if they're not young?
Yeah, a lot of it, I think, if for parents, it starts by letting your children explain to you what is happening on the screen that you're looking at and why they love this game so much and why they're so passionate about it. So it starts with just an open mind, and I think there's a lot of comparisons to traditional sports. Like, football is confusing if you've never heard of football, if you came from another planet, all these downs and everything, like what does that even mean? And esports has its own language just like that. So you got to come with an open mind and be willing to learn. And the best thing is, asking other people around you who do know what's going on, to just explain it to you, because it's not as tricky as you might think to get into it. Just most of these games, in fact, all 3 of the games that we're doing are free. Anybody with any computer built in the last like 5 years could just play these games for free. So even parents, if they really just want to understand what their kids are doing, could just put a few hours and just see what it's like to play the game. And that's like the quickest way to learn what's going on.
Now, Katie, Joe, and Ben are going to help us with this, but as local media, what's important for us to see as far as like how do we cover you well?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think the biggest part of esports and why it's important is that these students find a way to get plugged in to a community that cares about them. And at the end of the day, that's the truth about any sports. It's the development of the students. And so the best way to see the success of the program is seeing how the students are growing as people. And if there are ways that my students and my players can grab the spotlight and share their experience of how much they love to be a part of it and love to just compete, I think that will speak a lot about how our program is doing.
Coach Fischer, you talked about the three that you're playing. I know there's esports and competitive leagues and a lot of other video games. So how did you settle on these 3 as ones you guys want to compete in this first year?
Yeah, so I picked these 3 based on a few factors. Factors being my expertise and what I know the most, being what kind of current students want to play, kind of surveyed that landscape a little bit so I knew how to get our starting roster and everything, and a little bit asking kind of other high school coaches and other college coaches what just seems to be the most popular, especially amongst high schoolers, because that's the future of the program, and kind of mixed all those in together. But nothing is concrete in esports, which is the wildest thing about the landscape right now. These games could change in a year or 2. Which games we're doing could swap one out, could drop one, could add extra ones. So definitely could change.
In traditional sports, you always hear coaches talk about one of the most important things in recruiting is selling the parent on their school. So when you walk into a home or call a family, call an athlete, and you tell the mom you want their kid to come play soccer with cars, how does that usually go? And are they usually tuned enough to know that that's what their kid is already into?
It depends. Every parent's different. Some parents do actually play these games with their kids, and that's their dream come true. Some parents don't like the idea of their children just sitting in front of computers for so many hours a week. But a good comparison that I find is always comparing it to chess. I feel like many parents would never have a problem with their kids sitting in front of a chessboard for so long, and it's just as interesting to how much of that is kind of stigma and just helping them break that down. And I think at the end of the day, when parents see that their kids love to play these games and it's what they're already going to do in their dorm rooms anyway when they go to college, and they see that they can find a community that cares about them and wants to build that teamwork, I think once they truly understand that from their kids' perspective, every parent wants their kids to do what they love. So
I'm more familiar with the Rocket League, so I know there's a hierarchical system in that where you can get different gold or platinum, that sort of achievement system. So is that kind of how you recruit, by looking for guys who already achieved so much in the game, or is it more just watching them and seeing that their actual ability?
Their in-game rank, every esports title has that in-game rank like that. That is usually just the starting point that has 2% of value. At the end of the day, what I care about most is people who are committed, who want to be a part of the team and love the game that they play. That is the most important part, because it's easy to play these games when you grow up playing them whenever you want to, and when you have a frustrating loss, you can just turn off the system and not play anymore. But when you play in an organized team like this, you're going to have to come to practice even when you're frustrated, even after a heartbreaking loss. And if you don't truly love the game that you play and see why it's beautiful and see why it's art, you're not going to want to come to practice day in, day out for 4 years. And so that is the number one thing. Because a lot of these kids haven't played any game for 4 years straight. And so I don't worry too much about how good they are when they come in. If they have the love for the game, by the time they're seniors, they're going to be great.
The D3 level, this matters a lot. So are these students ones that would not have come to Wartburg otherwise, or is it mostly made up of students who already chose Wartburg and thought, we'll add, I'll do esports while I'm here?
Right now, I mean, it's mostly made up of current students who are already here. And so I'd like to say it's both, because so far as I've been here and learned more about Wartburg, it is a great school. And I think the school plays a huge part of it. If they come here just for esports and they don't like the school, then they're only going to be playing esports a certain fraction of their day. They're going to be living on campus and doing so many other college-related things that I almost don't want them to come here if they don't like this school. And I think that the school does a great job and people would love it. But I think it's a combo of both. I think you're going to want to play esports and you're going to want to be here at this college. And I also, as a coach, want what's best for my players. If they don't want to be here, then I also, as humans, I want them to find what's best for them.
What made this position a good fit for you? How excited are you to be on the foundation, building block of something new here at Wartburg?
Yeah, I hope that you can just tell by my voice that I am so excited to be able to do this. It's kind of like a dream come true. I remember in college kind of having one of those meetings with the career counselors of like, I don't know what I wanted to do. And I remember talking to them because I played esports in college too, and I kind of was a student when we helped create the program there. And I remember kind of talking like, man, I would love to be an esports coach, but I just kind of feel like that's not plausible. And then like, why? Well, you can do that. And it's like, wait a minute, you're right. There are a lot of jobs. So it kind of is a dream come true. And I'm just so excited to mix my passion of competition and video games with developing people. And I think that has way more overlap than people initially realize. So the fact that both those passions get to come together is, dream come true.
I thought you made a very interesting comparison with chess. And of course, when we think of chess, we think of a game of planning and mapping out the strategy. So kind of tell me how that strategy in esports kind of plays in.
Yeah, it feels like non-turn-based chess. Like you have to think fast and have reactions and intuition, but there are a lot of game plans that kind of work best going up against other game plans. Totally depends on the game, but a lot of it comes down to being willing to make mistakes and being willing to learn from those mistakes and not make them again. So I think a lot of, especially this first year, is going to be filled with just me encouraging my players to just make mistakes, just push themselves, do things that you've never done before, because that's how you're going to get better. If you stick to what you know, you're not going to get better. Same thing, I think, in chess. If you kind of just try to play what's safe, you're going to get cornered and you're not going to learn from your mistakes. But if you put yourself out there and just put hours in and be willing to lose, be willing to play against people who are better than you, you're going to learn a lot. And I think there's just, a lot of overlap in those things.
You mentioned how great a school this is. How encouraging is it that they've rallied behind you guys in the first year and are putting together a facility dedicated to the esports team?
Yeah, I have been blown away by how supportive this college has been to esports. Talking to like other colleges, coaches, like oftentimes administration can be a little hesitant when it comes to esports, especially when it's in athletics, because people just might not see it as legitimate in a way. But yeah, I have just been blown away that everybody around me has been as excited as I am to get this thing going and just to see how it pans out. Very just supportive in any type of help that I need. I'm not doing it all by myself. There's always other people from every other department that are willing to help me out, and we're all wanting to make Wartburg a better place.
We've spoken a lot about the positive sides of what has gone into creating this club. What are some of the obstacles you guys encountered on your journey?
Yeah, just me figuring out what is even going on. Just in general, and recruiting, which I kind of talked to earlier, that sometimes it could be hard to find these players because there are great players out there who have just kind of played in their spare time and never played organized esports, and so it can be harder to find them and they aren't aware of the opportunities that are out there. I'd say that's a big challenge, but over time, just as esports as a whole gets more popular, I think that those will kind of fade. And esports just is not extremely organized on the larger scale as well. There's no, like, esports isn't necessarily part of the NCAA, and so there's a bunch of other organizations that are kind of working their way towards trying to get you to compete. We're competing with the NECC, and there's just tons of organizations out there. I just like the way that they're format is and the way they give competitive games. But yeah, so there's just a lot of organizational things since esports is so young that eventually it'll settle into a good foundation.
We don't have home. No, I think that's me. It's not me. Oh, is it me? All right. I have one more question. My bad. All right. There we go. And then we don't have hometown data on your roster. So is this a locally grown team? And if so, if you could just give us like an idea of where they're all from.
Since most of them are just already current students, it is kind of a microcosm of where most of Wartburg students are from. So most of them are kind of local, most from Iowa. We have a few players from a few neighboring states, and we have one player from Egypt actually, who I am super excited to get to know and get to learn more about him. And I think, just talking about where students are from, I just want to add that that's a beauty of esports, that it can bring people together from all over the world. It just puts everybody in an equal playing field when you're inside of like a virtual landscape. And I'm so excited to use that to build bridges amongst people who have different cultural backgrounds.
You open up a little bit of
You touched on the being willing to lose end of things. When I was playing video games growing up, if I got out to a bad start, the cart would break down and we reset the game. How do you get over that mental barrier?
I'd say that is one of the biggest things in esports that players have to overcome, because I mean, you get angry in traditional sports, but you always are getting angry and you see other people there, and it just isn't quite the same when you're looking somebody else in the eyes when you're upset and they beat you. But when you grow up in a culture where it's kind of typically isolated, where you're playing games in front of a TV in your bedroom by yourself, you can get mad, you can scream, you can say whatever words you want at this TV, and there's no repercussions. Nobody else is going to get mad at you back. There's nobody to check your language. There's nobody to check what your emotions. And so when players kind of grow up in that environment, it's really hard to break those habits. And so I'm expecting there to be a lot of players who have kind of grown up with those habits that we're going to have to check and we're going to have to break. And a lot of it comes with practice of losing, and how do you handle that loss, and how do we talk about it? How do we handle it as a team? How do we, as players, encourage our fellow teammates that it's all right, just buckle up. We're gonna play another round. Usually most games are like best of 3, best of 5, and we're gonna play another game. It's not over till it's over, and we always have to believe that we can do this. And
that scared the administration when they heard you say they might say anything?
I don't know. I think most people kind of expect it a little bit with esports, and thankfully we're in our own isolated room. Where it's our team, and it's not like what we say is getting broadcasted to the world. So
how does it work during like an actual event? Are people able to view and listen and hear kind of the teamwork and the chatter and all that stuff? Or
so the goal, once we get everything fully set up, is we will be live streaming our games on Twitch, and we will have student commentators as well. So that's what you'll hear. You'll hear our students kind of giving commentary, casting the games as they're going, and kind of switching between player perspectives. But unless we decide that we might hey, let's cut into the players' communication for a little bit, which we probably won't do too often. You won't be able to hear the players' communications with each other. You'll just hear the commentary.
Thank you very much.